Just finishing your class this evening to make it here to be in the kitchen live with us today. So it's wonderful to have you actually here. Much prefer it when someone's actually here in person than over Zoom. It just makes things a bit easier and nicer now we can do it that way. So yeah, Zoe runs Macfit Edinburgh, and what I, unfortunately, it's at the other side of town, so I've not actually been to one of Zoe's classes, but I follow her online, and what I love about Zoe and why I was keen to get her on to our live this week is because the way Zoe talks about fitness is all about kind of movement and mindset rather than kind of like hardcore gains and weight loss and all this sort of stuff that is so prevalent in the sort of personal training world. So yeah, Zoe, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and Macfit, that'd be great.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me here for a start. I'm really honoured to be here, and I absolutely agree, who does not love brownies? I did ask for a sweet treat, didn't I? So I'm Zoe, I run Macfit Edinburgh, which started off as an outdoor fitness company. I'm doing classes at boot camp and HIIT training, and it's kind of really grown in the last 5 years into a wonderful community that I am really proud to be part of. We do outdoor classes, we do community events, and I do personal training and life coaching as well. So I think now I would probably call myself a holistic health coach is what it has kind of grown into.
Wonderful. I love the sound of that. Holistic health is kind of branched around quite a lot, but actually it sounds like you do kind of cover the whole package, which is wonderful. So I've got loads of questions for you, Zoe. Before we kind of crack into that and I start kind of asking you about that, we could just have a bit of a chat. Feel free, anyone who's watching, by the way, to put any questions in the comments, and we can get to them as we're going as well. But before we start sort of chatting, I'm just going to give you a whiz through the ingredients that you'll need if you're cooking along with us tonight, or if you're watching and then cooking later. So I'll just show you what you will need. So, like I said, we're making delicious sweet potato brownies. I said to Zoe before she joined, I was like, what's your kind of favourite ingredients? And I have to be honest, I was kind of expecting, because you're sort of all things into fitness, I was kind of expecting you to say something sort of super healthy or packed with protein or something like that. But I was quite delighted by your choice of a sweet treat. So it's a sweet treat, but it's got vegetables in it, so it's kind of good for you too. So there we go, best of both worlds. So what you'll need is a medium-sized sweet potato. We're going to bake that and just use the flesh from it. That's going to make our sweet potato puree. So you need about 100 grams medium-sized sort of sweet potato. We've got half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, half a teaspoon of baking powder. We've got 50 grams of self-raising flour, 50 grams of coconut sugar. That can be any brown sugar, really, to be honest. I just personally like the taste of coconut sugar. We've got 100 grams of peanut butter, and again, that can actually be any nut butter you want, almond, cashew, whatever you've got, all will work. And then we've got about 3 tablespoons or 20 grams, however you want to measure it, of cacao powder. And then 5 tablespoons of almond milk. Again, any plant-based milk will do. Almond milk's my kind of go-to, but soy, coconut, anything will be fine. This is a little bit of a Brucey bonus, a handful or a small handful of some frozen or fresh would be fine as well, berries. That will, that's your little bonus for tuning in live. That's not on the ingredients on the post that I put up, but that will give it just a little bit of extra kind of juiciness, if you like. It'll change up the texture of the brownie, and it'll also kind of balance out that kind of richness of the cacao. So that's a really nice addition. Any berry will do. I did blueberries the other day, and that was quite nice as well. So that is what you'll need. I'm not going to make you watch me bake a sweet potato because I feel like you've all got better things to do with your Monday evening. So here's one I made earlier. And basically, all you want to do is pierce. That looks a bit dangerous, doesn't it? Really stabbed my hand there. Pierce your sweet potato, pierce the skin of your sweet potato, pop that on a baking tray, and then pop that in the oven for about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the size of it. And then you'll have this wonderful soft sweet potato that the knife just sort of slides through. You kind of want to over bake it versus what you would to eat it. And I'll just show you quickly how we get the flesh out of that for the sweet potato puree. So if you just kind of slice the skin open, and it basically should just fall out. Look at that, super easy. Make sure you don't get any of the skin in there, because that's not gonna be very nice in your brownie. If you've got a bit that's sort of sticking on, then chop that off. There we go. That is it. And then you can just mash that. Look how easily that mashes with a fork, just like that. And there you have your sweet potato puree. Right, super quickly to that, we're just gonna add 5 tablespoons of almond milk. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to count, because if I don't count, I start chatting about something else and then I do it wrong. half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. There we go. And then we're just gonna mix all that together. You could blend it, but to be honest, you don't really need to, because the sweet potato is so lovely and soft. Right, so whilst I'm mixing, so like I said, Zoe, the thing that I love about your approach is the fact that you actually take it, well, you said you're a holistic health coach, and the fact that you do actually take it holistically. Talk to me about kind of where that came from, because I suppose maybe more so now, but certainly previously that wasn't necessarily the kind of norm in terms of an approach for fitness classes and things like that. It was kind of like, you know, that feels like that's kind of changed a bit in the last few years.
For me, what I want to achieve from my classes and from everybody that comes to the classes is that they feel a certain way, and so I just promote that everybody can come along. It doesn't matter what their fitness levels are, they can just come along and take part, and I want everyone to feel really proud of what they're doing, because you could come along and kind of be at a real starting point in your journey, and everybody is on a different journey as well, aren't they? Everybody's going through different stuff, and for me it really is about being proud of what you're achieving along the way, whatever that is. So I think so many people put so much value on what the scales say, and then you don't celebrate all the wonderful things, or you don't give yourself time to celebrate all the wonderful things that your body actually does do for you on a daily basis. And that is really important to me, that we take time to recognize where you've come from, and the progress that you've made, and that can come in so many different ways other than what the scales say, or the way that we look as well. Yeah, totally. And you said a lot actually when you introduced yourself just there about community, and you've grown into this community, and that's quite interesting as well. Do you only do group classes? And it sounds like you put quite a lot of emphasis on the community aspect versus your kind of, or maybe it's not versus, but it sounds like you put quite a lot of emphasis on the community aspect rather than it being kind of like an individual journey. Absolutely. I think the community has really just grown and grown and grown, and that is part of, it's about the people that come to the classes. I mean, I'm just so lucky for the people that I have around me and how that has grown, and like has just attracted like, really. And people are great friends as well, and everybody's supportive and encouraging, and it really is a kind of safe community where people feel that they can come along and they're not judged at all for wherever they're at, whatever they're going through. And I think that actually last year was just huge in how the community came together and supported everybody as one through the lockdown.
You're a lot about, you're a lot about outdoor fitness classes, aren't you? But I guess that had to stop for a long time last year.
It had to completely change. Yeah. So I know that now that we're out of lockdown and out of the restrictions, a lot of people like me who were doing indoor classes and teaching indoor classes before have had to take their businesses outside, whereas I've done that all along. And So taking the classes online was a real challenge for me. I had to take them inside. But what it did do was it meant that people had part of their life that was a routine. It was part of their normal routine, and that could continue going. And we would see, I would take time, people could speak to each other on the screen, and you would see all these little squares of people that you recognised on Zoom, and we did online parties and celebrations and awards, and we've done it. We actually did a cook along with Nicola Pearce, who does she's a private chef. So we did that at Christmas time. We had a Christmas party with the silent disco guy. So there's just loads of stuff. And this summer we've got loads of things going on. Thankfully, it's all outdoors.
Yeah, it is really nice to be back in person with people as well.
Oh, it really is. It's, I think people just were so desperate, especially in the beginning. I mean, the classes, when the restrictions first lifted last August, I think it was, or the beginning of September.
All rolls into one.
It all rolls into one. But people were just desperate, and it was the only time, like, you were still only allowed to see maybe 1 or 2 other people at a time, but yet you could come to an outdoor fitness class and be with 29 other people.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how close to them you are, it just matters that you're in the same park doing the same stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so people were really desperate to come and be part of that, because it was missing from their lives so much. So I think that's, lockdown, however hard it was, and it was really hard, has been a big part of bringing the community, Macfit community, and making it even stronger than it was before.
Nice. What I've done here is just melted the peanut butter. So rather than it being kind of like hard and difficult to stir, I've just melted it so it's a bit more kind of stirrable. And then I'm just adding that to the sweet potato puree. So in the bowl is the sweet potato that's just been mashed once it's baked, the almond milk, and the vanilla extract. And now I've just added that melted peanut butter. So all that loveliness is in there. And then into a separate bowl, I'm just gonna, so that's all the wet ingredients together. And then into a separate bowl, I'm gonna add the self-raising flour, which is, what do we say, 50 grams? Coconut sugar, which is 50 grams, and stuck in the pot. And 3 tablespoons of the cacao powder, 20 grams, and then half a teaspoon of the baking powder too. And then I'm just gonna sieve that. The best thing about this recipe actually is you don't need to do too much weighing and measuring. I think I put the ingredients in cup and tablespoon measures in the post on Facebook, which you can really easily do it with that as well. It's actually not too fussy, which some baking recipes are, which put me off a little bit. I'm not too precise a chef. So that makes it right up my street. So you're just going to sieve the dry ingredients into a bowl, and then we're going to combine them. So something that I was thinking about, Zoe, was actually when we all talk about kind of obviously how interconnected everything is, like fitness, food, mindset. It's all connected, and we all know that. But what's really hard is, and when it's all going well, it's all going great, and everything clicks into place because one thing follows the other, and if you're on the right path with one thing, the rest all falls into place, and it's like a domino effect, isn't it? But when one thing goes out, it's also like a domino effect, and it all kind of falls out of place as much as it falls into place. What's your thoughts, or what's your opinion? There's probably not, who knows, but what comes first, the chicken or the egg, basically? And I know it's not just 2 things either, is it? But probably $20 million question.
So, and obviously because I work with clients one-to-one, this is something that comes up a lot. And I think that for me, it is actually your mindset and where you're at is what comes first. Because if we're not doing the work on ourselves on quite a deep level, then the other stuff isn't going to fall into place. It's the way that that's my belief about it. And bad habits, good habits can be learned just as easily as bad habits. And I think that people will often think, oh well, I've eaten badly, or and there's a lot of this talk about bad food, good food, and actually what I really want to try and encourage people to do is be eating nutritious food and to be intuitive to your body and really listen to what your body needs and wants. And our body actually, it's very clever. It knows what feels good and what doesn't feel good, but it's whether we are able to listen to that. And I do think that when we start to really go a little bit deeper with ourselves, then the other things just fall into place, really.
But it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you, taking that first step, I suppose, is probably the most difficult thing, isn't it? Because that's the, once you sort of take that first step, then that's the kind of catalyst, isn't it? And everything, like I say, everything else sort of starts to fall into place. But it's so hard to kind of, I feel like getting yourself into a good frame of mind is also like, yeah, how do you do that without all the other things? It's impossible.
I think it depends. Where are you talking about coming from? Like, are you like are you a beginner, or are you like you've eaten something that you wish you hadn't eaten, or you're, what kind of bad place? Or everybody could be in a different bad place. And you maybe
steps, isn't it? Not trying to tackle it as like a huge thing that you've got to sort like that. It's kind of maybe,
it's about having a goal, and you want to reach that goal, whatever that is. And everybody has their individual goals, and but then it's about taking the steps, like making the steps and making them achievable along the way. And I really think that you should be celebrating every single little step. And just if you don't get to the place that you think you're going to get, people put a lot of pressure on themselves, like, oh God, I've not reached this goal, but actually they've still come quite far from where they were in the first place. But I have a lot of people who are really into, they're already into fitness, and they come along. So it's, people talk about this balanced life, don't they? And for me, this might be controversial, but I think that when people are desperate for this balanced life, you're kind of balancing one out with the other all the time, and you're teetering constantly. If you think of weighing scales, it's teetering to get to that balanced point.
Yeah, that's really true, actually. And that's putting quite a lot of pressure on yourself as well, isn't it? Sort of trying to always achieve that balance.
Absolutely. And I think that you've got to look at where you're winning, what things you're winning at, what things are working well, and really celebrate those things and look at what the positives. And do you know, I wrote out a list today. I've finally started doing or written a newsletter. Mastering MailChimp has been an absolute pain in the backside, but
feel your pain.
I'm still not quite there yet, but I wrote down my granny turned 98 on Thursday last week, and she's totally with it.
Is that all the good Skye air?
She does not live in Skye. She lives in France.
Oh, sorry. Was that your?
It was my mum and my brother that live up in Skye. So this is my dad's mum, and she lives in France. But she and I kind of wrote down a list of what my top tips for living a long and healthy life for mind and for body and spirit, really. And that a lot of these were lessons from her, so lessons from a 98-year-old. And so, she lives quite simply. She doesn't eat past being full. I think that might come from wartime, but and she.
But that's actually rare for people in this day and age. Like I always eat past being full.
Yeah, and actually, we're not really giving our bodies time to digest the food, that rest and digest time, because we're just constantly, things are there, and we live in this world where everything is just so busy, and we're attached, and we're switched on all of the time. And so, it's about taking time to slow down and be present and really think, again, what I was saying earlier is about being intuitive to what our body needs. I mean, if you eat 5 donuts which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that unless you do it every day. But you know yourself, your body is not going to really feel nourished. Like, where is the nourishment? What goodness are you getting from that?
But not only that, you're probably going to feel not great for it, you know, like what you said before about intuitive eating. Like, for me, there's a lot of chat around intuitive eating that I'm not necessarily agree with all of it, but I think that thought of like being able to read your body's signals, I think we can be quite out of touch with that because we've got used to living to excess almost, so you sort of stop listening to what your body's actually trying to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, do you know, it's, yeah, like I get what you're saying about the intuitive eating, but it's just about knowing that doesn't feel good. And I think we will ignore those signs. We're really, you know, just because we are thinking about the next thing that we're having, and that's just because of the way that the world is right now. So I think it's quite important to try and bring it back down. And, you know, the more ingredients in something probably means that it's not going to be brilliant for you. Less ingredients like this, you know, when it's home cooked. And
on that point, I forgot to put an ingredient in because we were busy chatting.
The raspberries.
So after sieving the dry ingredients, you saw me do it, but I added the dry to the wet, and then I nicely put it into my baking tray ready to say this is the consistency it should be. And I was thinking, it's a bit dry, and I forgot to put the raspberries in. I'm just going to kind of dot a few in, see if that works. So this is a live experiment. If it doesn't, then don't try this at home, but if it does, then it could be an excellent new kind of brownie topper. Let's see. It probably will work because it will just give it a little bit of extra juice, won't it? So you do want the brownie consistency will look quite thick. As if you saw when I was mixing it there, it is quite a thick consistency, which that's right, because your brownies should be kind of quite gooey and they're not going to rise and be all kind of fluffy like a cake. But that is looking good. So we're going to pop that in the oven for what have we got in here? Oh, that's the baked potato I put in. I'm going to pop that in the oven for 15 minutes at 160, and then we're going to check, see how that's doing afterwards. Sorry, so what were we talking about? Intuitive eating, yeah, and actually learning to listen to your body and know when it's full. But I think that's a journey as well, though, wouldn't you say? Like, I think, you know, it takes feeling good to know what feeling not right is, if you know what I mean. Because I feel like when I first started eating plant-based, I didn't really realise what I could feel like, if you know what I mean. Like my body was probably slow at digesting and a bit sluggish and all the rest of it, because that's just kind of, that was my normal, and that's kind of what I knew as fine. Like, that didn't feel like that felt like that's how I felt, and that was normal and that was okay. It wasn't until I sort of changed the way I was eating that I was suddenly like, oh, actually I can feel a lot better than that. And then that allowed me to then kind of listen a little bit more and tune in. And I suppose it's the same with food and fitness and everything else, isn't it? Because you sort of need to know what good can look like before you kind of strive for it, I suppose, in a way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for me, the same goes with fitness as well. Do you know, it's about the way that you feel inside, and the endorphins and the connection, and feeling strong and feeling alive and feeling your heart beating, you know, all these kind of things. That's what's really important to me when it comes to fitness and movement. Yeah. And doing things really, you know, hard and fast, but also doing things, you know, like slowing down and doing yoga. Yeah. Or just take, you know, I think my classes are known for being quite intense at times. Really? But yeah, they can be. I'm sure my team will agree with that. But they are for everybody, so it really doesn't matter. You know, you can slow it down. But actually, in lockdown now, I've created some new classes, and they're a little bit more strength based. So it's just doing something a bit different as well, but it is all just about that feeling. And do you know, I think you probably have seen on social media that I've started wild swimming as well.
I have, yeah. I was going to ask about that. Because in terms of like finding something, I think finding something that you love is really important, and that's totally different for everyone. And some people love that kind of like MetaFit kind of hardcore stuff, and for other people it's not that. It's something much different, whether it's, you know, running, walking, swimming, whatever it might be. And I suppose that's the place to start, isn't it? The place that you actually find enjoyment from, versus being like the way to lose the most or burn the most calories or whatever the quickest.
Yeah, but I don't have anybody that comes to this part of the team really that's come into the classes looking to burn the most calories, and so doing something like the wild swimming alongside the classes, that was really a community thing as well. You know, we did it, and then all of a sudden people were like, oh, I'd quite like to try that. And then that just grew arms and legs, and now some people go really early in the morning. Other people from the community will meet later in the day and they'll go, but it's just that connection. Like,
it's really exploded, hasn't it, wild swimming? I
think so. I think, like, you know, the year that we've just had has really left people needing the connection with nature, the connection with people, and just doing something. You know, people would be so busy, like, you know, before lockdown ever happened, people are so busy, and when you go on holiday as well, people are going on holiday and they're away, and we've been really forced together with the people, with your neighbours, with your community. We couldn't go any further than 5 miles, so, you know, it's kind of really forced you, or not forced, but made people get to know the people that you have around you a bit more.
It's really healthy, isn't it? We never used to do it. Like, a lot of people, I bet you loads of people have got to know their neighbours, they're like within their building, that they didn't know before, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I hope so. I think people have been looking out for each other and supporting one another. Yeah. I'm just lucky that the people that I hang out with like doing the same sort of crazy stuff.
So do you go in your birthday suit, or do you go in a wetsuit? Not your full birthday suit.
Not my full birthday. I've not tried that one yet. I go in a swimming costume. I do also go in a wetsuit if I'm going for a bit of a longer swim, and if I'm up at the reservoir. Right.
Because I'm an in and out girl. Like, I don't stay in very long. And I bought a wetsuit because I seem to end up going, I've not been in ages actually, I seem to end up going in the colder months. So I bought a wetsuit because I thought, okay, that'll help me go in throughout winter, but I really just don't like it. I find that it feels kind of restrictive, and you don't really, rather than getting that sort of cold water shock, if you like. And that's, for me, I think the cool thing about sort of swimming in the sea or just in cold water is you get that kind of shock, and you have to breathe through it, and there's something about that is kind of quite exhilarating. With the wetsuit, you kind of get this 3-second delay and then a sort of seep of cold water slowly down you, which I don't know if I love so much, I have to be honest.
I think the wetsuits have a time and a place, and some people really love them, and that they're still getting exactly the same from. They're getting that experience. I'm the same as you. It's that instant feeling of the cold and having to just breathe through it. I do quite a lot of meditation. I actually did a meditation teacher training course last year as well, and a bit of a breathwork training course too. So that was. I did one and then the other. So I'm able to use some of that as I go into the sea, and it's really this just very peaceful moment as you're going in, and then obviously you're doing it with other people, and that's, I think, where the connection comes from. For me, a wetsuit, it takes me longer to get out of my wetsuit than it does to get in, because I suffer from Raynaud's. So when my hands can stop working if they're too cold. I've got special gloves now that I wear in the sea.
Do you know, I've only figured out, it's a total side note, but just over the past year I've realised that I have that as well. Like, I've only ever had it in my hands, but they just go completely, like my fingers go blue, like just 2 or 3 fingers, and they just go completely numb, like I could whack it off the wall and wouldn't feel a thing.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. It's horrible. It's quite horrible. Actually, before, I think cold water swimming has helped it, because I would get it before, and actually it was when I would do a long run. If I was running in the winter,
like out on the bike or something as well, that's when I did it. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be until you come home at the end of the run, and then I'd try and put my keys in my door, so I wouldn't really feel it while I was running, and then put the keys in the door, and I couldn't really get my keys in the door because the fingers just stopped working.
Do you know, it's weird because I've never heard anyone with having this before, but lately in the past kind of year, I've actually heard of loads of people. It's weird.
People are doing well swimming, and they've realised that they've got it.
I know. Right, so for me, my biggest excuse with actually anything good for me. I was going to say with fitness, but it's not just with fitness. With fitness, whether it's like doing some meditation, whether it's resting, like all this sort of things that I know are going to set me on a good path, and I should isn't the right word, but the things that I know are good for me, I will end up not doing because I don't have time. And I know that's a ridiculous excuse, but it seems to come up time and time again, and that's what sets me sort of off course, if you know what I mean, because I find myself telling myself that I don't have time to do something, even though I know how good it's for me. And I'm sure I'm not alone there. So, if you got any advice?
So, first of all, I'd stop telling myself that I didn't have time, because every time you say that, you're reaffirming that. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I would say is, how often do you spend on your phone? Yeah. And then I would say, well, have a look at your week and see how your week looks. Where could you fit that in? Because I think it's really important. I'm a huge advocate for self-care, and by self-care, I mean looking after you and looking after yourself and taking time to slow down and to rest. Now, you can look at where in your life you might have a little break, and you can start to stack good habits. So every time you brush your teeth, what about saying, right, I'm going to do 10 squats, 10 push-ups. I mean, that's just a complete...
Also brush my teeth.
Finish brushing your teeth, and then you stack that up. Okay. But it's just about looking, like, okay, I'm going to make a commitment. Block it out in your diary, 15 minutes to do a little, going for a walk, like a fast walk, or half an hour to do a fitness class. And I know you like running as well, so, just saying, right, this time, just once next week, I'm going to go and do this thing. And then the following week, okay, well, maybe twice I'll go and do this thing. And if for meditation, for me, I have to do it when I get up in the morning, and I don't do it every single day. I really would love to, but last few weeks, summer holidays, I've been away, I've been driving, I've been, I was looking after somebody's puppy for the weekend, so I was in a different place, and the puppy woke me up at 5:30 as well, which is when I would normally get up, and I set time to myself. So I've made that commitment, and I think every time if you make a commitment to yourself and then you break that commitment, you're just again reaffirming it. So actually, and then you're
beating yourself up because you didn't do it.
Yeah. Why not then just take 2 minutes? I often say to people, just put your hand on your heart, hand on your tummy, take 5 deep breaths, really feel your body move a bit like a wave, up and down, and that doesn't take any time. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things that you can just do, and when you do them consistently, they're going to add up.
And what about getting back? So everything you said about time blocking and stuff, I go through phases of doing that, and it helps massively, and then I do actually do it, and all is well in the world and feeling great. But inevitably, what I am quite bad at, like I just said there actually, is then if I don't do it, beating myself up about it, rather than just being like, oh well, didn't do it, tomorrow's a new day sort of thing. Any tips there for kind of like, I guess, getting back on it without having that kind of like, catastrophizing the situation because you didn't do it, I suppose?
So what I do say to my clients is, So there's a difference where you can say, oh God, I am such a bad person, I am terrible, I'm really bad, and I've heard you say it a couple of times already, I'm really bad at this. How about you saying, well, that thing isn't great. So instead of saying I'm the bad person, it's the thing that isn't good or the habit that isn't good, rather than saying that you aren't good. Yeah. I mean, I drive my kids are like, oh my God, you're so cringy, Mum. Well, they're not that young now. But, you know, they're like, God, you're so cringy. Because I pull them up on this kind of stuff all the time. I pull my clients up on it as well. They're like, oh God, I'm so bad. I ate this terrible thing.
It's ingrained in us, isn't it? Like that's just been the sort of dialogue throughout our lives. So it's really hard to shake it.
You weren't born with that. You weren't born with that. So that's learned. And you can actually unlearn it, but it takes consistency.
But it is learned from a young age, isn't it? Like
it is, and it is just about trying to change that narrative. You know, like start checking when you say those kind of things to yourself. Like think about it, like notice it, and then feel it and think, oh, there, I've done that again. Instead of saying, oh, there, I've done that again, I'm so bad. Okay, I've noticed that now. And then, and just, just keep going and be consistent. That's what I have to.
Right, I can smell these brownies. Can you smell them? Let's see. Oh, the raspberries on top don't look too bad. Quite a good garnish, actually. However, they might be burning when the rest isn't ready. So the thing to know about these brownies are, well, brownies in general, your knife, the age-old test when you're making a cake is stick a knife in it and it comes out clean, it's done. With brownies, you want it to come out a bit gooey because you want that kind of gooey brownie centre. So, oh, we might have overdone them. Yeah, so that's just about perfect there. You see, there's still a little bit of sort of cakiness on the knife there, but nearer the edges, that was coming out quite clean, so that's probably perfect. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to cut into them because they'll just fall apart. So what you actually need to do with the brownies is let them cool. I'll see if I can take them out so you can get a better view of them. But I'm not going to cut them until they're cool because they'll just kind of be a bit of a goo fest. Do we want to see a goo fest? Maybe we want to see a goo fest actually, do we? We'll cut. We'll cut just so you can see the centre. Can't resist, eh? So, oh. You just cut in there. You can feel that it's quite nice and gooey, but it's going to break apart there because it's so fresh out of the oven. But once it's cooled, that'll cut much nicer. And you can see we've got that lovely gooey brownie centre. There we go. Taste test?
Taste test.
I'm going to do it. Well, I'm actually going to, there we go. I'm actually going to give them home with you because I've trialed these during the week and I've eaten quite a lot of brownies already, so you can have these away with you and enjoy them once they're cool. What do you think there? I was going to say they're probably not the easiest to taste test right now, but nice and gooey. Definitely got that lovely moist centre, and the sweet potato helps with that as well. You wouldn't tell there's sweet potatoes in them though, would you? Do not taste like they've got a vegetable in near them.
The raspberry on top is amazing as well.
Does that just burn your mouth?
No, not at all. I've got leather mouth.
So yeah, try that one with the kids or on your own. It's a good rainy day bake. And it's super easy as well, actually. So next time you're baking a potato for lunch or whatever, bake an extra one, let it cool, and then just whip up a wee batch of brownies. They actually freeze quite nicely as well, so if you make too many, again, wait till they're cool, chop it in half, wrap up one section, stick it in the freezer, and then you've got some for another day. There we go. Please do. So yeah, I think that's us for tonight. Thanks very much for joining us, Zoe. Pleasure. I'm definitely going to try and put in some of those tips into my day and try and get more, stack up the good habits.
And be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind to yourself.
Yes, yes.
That is, yeah. one of my biggest tips is be kind.
Hard.
It's not. It's hard if you tell yourself it's hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're correcting me. That's good.
Yeah. Well, this is what I would say to. I mean, there's a lot of reaffirming how hard these things are. When actually, how about saying, I can do this. I actually can do this. I'm a person who does this kind of stuff, and I find it easy, or I am finding it easier. You know.
And it should be easy
I am
to
working
be nice to
on
yourself,
it.
shouldn't it? Why should it be difficult to be nice to yourself?
Because we haven't done it for a long time, and there's lots of other things, which is why I was talking. What goes back to going on a deeper level, and getting to the what's going on underneath as well. Yeah.
Practice kindness to myself and others.
To yourself first.
Yes, practice on yourself and then get around to the others later.
It's easier to be kinder to people when you're being kind to yourself.
True, that's true though. All right, well, fabulous. Thank you very much. We will be back. No, before I go, Zoe, tell everybody how they can find you, how they can find Macfit, how they can get involved. Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, which is macfit.edinburgh, and also on Facebook is Macfit Edinburgh. You can send me a message on either, and if you would like to come along to a class, send me a message. We've got online classes, 5 online classes a week at the moment, and we've got classes, I think we're 4 or 5 days a week in Braidburn Park. We've got boot camps for everybody, for men and boys, men and women, and also launching in August, in the autumn, I have the Macfit Method, which is a program that I have created, an online coaching program, which is very exciting. So let me know if you'd like some more information. So when
about
that launches in August?
In the autumn.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's because I did a life coaching qualification as well a couple of years ago, so I've just been trying to create something that's a little bit different. So all of my techniques and learnings.
So is that kind of like the holistic
things,
or is that more mindset than it is movement?
It's a self-empowerment program that will help people to love, honour, respect, and accept themselves for who they are, really get in touch with loving their bodies and celebrating themselves, and it will include fitness and nutrition, and we'll look at the whole lifestyle and diet as well. It's very exciting. I can't wait to get it started.
But I'll be keeping my eye out for that.
Yes.
And for anyone who wants some healthy, plant-based, easy, ready meals, then you know where to find me, newnorm.co.uk. If you're in Edinburgh, get your orders in by midday on Thursday for delivery on Friday. And if you're in wider Scotland, then order deadline midday Sunday for delivery Tuesday. We'll be back, same place, same time next week with the lovely Jojo Fraser, and I've asked her what her favourite ingredients is, and she's told me rhubarb and cinnamon, which we've just done sweet, so I'm actually challenging myself here to do rhubarb and cinnamon in a savoury dish. So I'm thinking, don't hold me to this because I still need to trial the recipe, but I'm thinking about a curry with rhubarb in it. What do you think of that? If that tickles your taste buds, then join me here 8 o'clock Monday. See you then. Bye.